So we're in the second week of Who Do You Say He Is, which is a chance for us to look at Jesus and say, who do we personally believe Jesus was, right? Like, was he a real person at all? Was he really the Son of God? Was he something else? So we're kind of going through that. And this week we're looking at what words Jesus actually said about himself, like the words that are attributed to him in the New Testament. So the first thing we talked about was this quote. And it says, the issues should not be what we want to believe about Jesus, but rather, what did Jesus claim, and is that claim true? Right? It doesn't matter what we want to believe, but it's about what he said and figuring out if what he said was true. All right, so we're going to look at a couple verses. Mark chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. We're not going to read all of it, but it's the story of the man getting lowered in from the roof because he was paralyzed, and his four friends wanted to get him to Jesus so he could be healed, and they couldn't find a way in, so they lowered him in on the roof. So we'll start reading Mark chapter 2, verses 5 through 12. And seeing their faith, Jesus said to the paralyzed man, "My child, your sins are forgiven." But some of the teachers of the religious law who were sitting there thought to themselves, "What is he saying? This is blasphemy." Blasphemy meaning speaking something against God, doing something that only God can do, right? Kind of like scoffing at God almost. It says only God can forgive sins. That they're thinking this in their heads, right? Jesus knew immediately what they were thinking, so he asked them, "Why do you question this in your hearts? Is it easier for me to say to the paralyzed man, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Stand up, pick up your mat and walk'? So I will prove to you that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." Then Jesus turned to the paralyzed man and said, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and go home." And the man jumped up, grabbed his mat, and walked out through the stunned onlookers. They were all amazed and praised God, exclaiming, "We've never seen anything like this before," right? So picture this. There's a bunch of people hanging around listening to Jesus talk. And some other rabbis were there, Jewish leaders. And they kind of didn't really like Jesus. They're like, okay, Jesus is kind of maybe part of the team. But like he's like the weird guy that we don't really want to talk about. Like, yeah, he's a rabbi. But like, they're like prestigious churches. And then they're like people who like preach out of their vans, right? Like Jesus was like that to them, right? They're like, this guy's so weird. I guess he's kind of on the team, but I don't know. Like they don't invite him to the Christmas parties, right? Where all the head honchos get together. Doesn't happen. All right. And Jesus literally is standing there and says, "I forgive this guy's sins." And they're like, you can't do that, right? Like, I mean, I'm willing to give them a little break here, right? Because they might not know that they don't really know, like they don't have like all of the evidence of the resurrection and all this stuff to like know that Jesus really was the Son of God, right? Like I could get why they could sit there and think like, who do you think you are, right? Like that's what they're thinking. God is the only one who can do this. And Jesus says he can do it. And then again in Luke chapter 7, verse 48 through 50, he does the exact same thing. There's a big dinner party, and this woman comes in who has a bad reputation and pours this oil all over Jesus' feet and anoints him and is crying and is just so thankful that Jesus has given her, right? And no one else gets it, and they're like, dude, you shouldn't even let that lady near her. Like, you're a rabbi. That's not okay. And this is what happens in Luke 7, 48 through 50. Jesus says to the woman, "Your sins are forgiven." Then the men at the table said among themselves, "Who is this man who goes around forgiving sins?" And Jesus said to the woman, after hearing this, "Your faith has saved you. Go in peace," right? Like, again, he's doing something that only God can do, right? He's claiming to be able to forgive sins, right? And it's not just forgiving sins, right? Because it's not like Jesus is like, well, yeah, she sinned against this guy, and I'm forgiving on his behalf. Like that, first of all, is just weird dynamic, right? Because she didn't really sin against Jesus unless Jesus is God and she somehow broke a commandment of God's or turned away from him or kind of scoffed at God's law or loved something more than God, right? Like that's what a sin is, right? And Jesus is forgiving on behalf of God. That's what's going on in these two verses and all over the New Testament. So we see Jesus do that a lot. And that's only something that you do if you either think you're God or you are God, right? Like, or maybe you're trying to trick people into following you. Like you might say something like that, right? So that's kind of what we get a picture of Jesus doing things publicly, saying that he is God, right? Like there's no mincing about that. And then there's a couple verses in John chapter 12, verse 45. "For when you see me, you are seeing the one who sent me," right? He's like, so if you see me, you're seeing God, right? Like, that's a crazy statement. And then John 15:23 says, "Anyone who hates me also hates my Father," right? Like, he said, if you don't like me, you don't like God, right? Like, if a man was saying these things, you would not like follow him. Like, you'd just be like, oh my gosh, this guy is nuts, right? Like, unless it was really real. And there were people who followed him his whole life, right? Like, I've met people who thought they were a guy who thought he was Noah before. He's like, I'm Noah, and I put all them on the boat, all the animals, and I was like, whew, right? Like, so if Jesus was really kind of crazy, like, nobody would have followed him for 3 years. People wouldn't lay down their lives for him after he died, right? Like, there's no way that would have happened unless he really was who he said he was. And then the big one for me is in Mark chapter 14, verses 60 through 64. This is after Jesus gets arrested, and he goes, and his first trial is in front of the Jewish community and the high priest and all of those people who were mad at Jesus because he was saying these blasphemous things. They're like, you're not the Son of God, you're not God. And so they tried to get Jesus trapped by having false witnesses, and the false witnesses are like stumbling all over each other. And then finally the high priest has enough of all of the games, and he's like, you know what? He stands up and says, the high priest stood up before others and asked Jesus, well, aren't you going to answer to these charges? What do you have to say for yourself? But Jesus was silent and made no reply. Then the high priest asked him, are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One? Are you the Son of God? And Jesus said, I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated in the place of power at God's right hand and coming on the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest tore his clothing in horror, because that's, again, a big blasphemy, and that's a thing that, like, they had to do to, like, show disgust at blasphemy when they heard something like that. And he said, do we need another witness? You have all heard this blasphemy. What's your verdict? Guilty, they all cried. He deserves to die, right? Like, so here again is another thing where, like, if Jesus wasn't really said who he said he was, he really believed it, right? Because he is here and he knows that these people are out to get him, and he doesn't back down, right? He's like, no, I am the Son of God, right? And this also is kind of a slap in the face too, because that I am, it's not just like a simple I am, like it's hearkening back to Moses in the burning bush when Moses meets God there, and Moses is like, okay, you want me to go say it, free the people, that's fine, but who do you want me to say sent me? Like, who do I tell the people? And that's God's answer, I am, right? Like, it's I am. And Jesus says that to this room full of Jewish scholars and teachers and priests. They know what he's saying. This is kind of like a slap in the face when it's like, who do you say that I am? I am, right? Like, Jesus is saying he is God. So there's no mincing about that. We're going to look, I'm going to throw up just a picture of something that kind of has like a flowchart of what Jesus could have been, from being either a legend, a leader, a liar, a lunatic, or actually the Lord, right? And you can kind of follow through the ideas, and if you have questions about it, please talk to us. But I think going through all of that, Jesus obviously thought he was the Son of God, and actually thought he was the Lord, right? Claimed to be it, very obviously, very clearly, and it even says in some historical stuff we're going to talk about next week that other people said that Jesus' followers said he was Lord. So it's not just something that people wrote in a book, but like it's something that other people really thought and other people observed. So what are you going to do with that information? Like, well, this is what Jesus says about himself. This is what he believes about himself. Do you believe it about him or not? We're going to look at the resurrection and some other eyewitness accounts through the rest of the series, so make sure you stick around.